Hello and welcome to my next video. So today I'm going to be covering the build I've been playing in Ultimatum. So I did a reroll out of the Elementalist and started a BladeFall BladeBlast Assassin, the Poison variant. Since I do like trying out other decent League starters, but I'd like to actually play them, test them out and see how they feel. Since it got nerfed last league, well I would say this league, but like most people said, it's still going to be fine, which it is. The nerf was more so directed towards the hit-based version rather than the poison-based variant. Now, you still lost a little bit of damage, but honestly, it's still pretty fine. I've hit level 100 on it now, and I've done all the content. I've done multiple the Feareds, I've done multiple Mavens, multiple Cyruses, of course, and all my Cyruses to level 100. Even the Feared, I've rolled at 95 quant, and now it wasn't that less, as you'll see later in the video, but that's what you would expect from a dodge-based build. Especially, I did not play it too perfectly, so it's a bit of player error as well in there. But the build is honestly very, very good as a league starter, and it's a very good all-round build. So obviously it's not like the instant damage you would expect from a miner, but it's more than enough damage to take on the end game. Also, it's relatively tanky, but again, it's not like a max block character with 10k ES or something like that. So you could get one shot very rarely, but as you see, I hit level 100. I did have quite a few deaths along the way, but it wasn't anything that made me hard stuck at a certain level. And other than that, I mean, the clear is pretty good as well. And mind you, as well, since it's SSF, and I went to just make my character very good all round to be able to do all the content, you can still scale specific areas a lot more. Like I could make my clear a lot better by juicing my Plague Bearer. I could also make the single target a lot higher. Because the only gear I really have that could be a little bit expensive on Trade League at day one is a Carcass deck, which at the end of the day, the Carcass deck is actually less single target, since it makes your blades spread out more. So if I were just to use a rare chest or even a tabula, I'd actually have more single target damage. Also, I could have a helm with conk effect or fizz damage to spells, so there's still a lot of extra room to get even more damage if that's what you want. So that's why I say the build is honestly a very big success, and if nothing has changed, it definitely is a very top tier league starter for the next league. Now, I'll put some content about boss killing at the end of the video, so if you want to see that, you can skip to the end. But other than that, I'm going to jump in game and go over my gear and links and everything like that. Here we are in game. To go over the characters, you can see level 100. Do mind you, I'm playing SSF, so some of this gear you can get it definitely even better in Trade League. But as you can see from my stash, I mean, I've been playing quite a bit. Pretty much everything on this character. I've done a lot of heisting and stuff like that, so the level 100 wasn't rushed at all. But to go over the gear, so for clear you want obliterations, which again in Trade League even day one they're very cheap, they're very common. There's also a card for them if I can find it. So this card, Dark Temptation, as you can see, you find so many of these, so that should not be an issue to get at all. And pretty much you do everything with these. And then I have a weapon swap to Cold Iron points. These might be a little bit expensive, but I don't even think they're that expensive, even at the start. But these are the weapons I use for bossing. Now, mind you that map bosses, I still do with obliterations. The only time I switch to these is for Conquerors, and obviously for Cyrus or Maven or anything like that. So you don't really weapon swap that often at all. Even for quite a long time when I was just mapping, would just have other gems leveling in my offhands. So next up, the most of the gear is just going to be res and life. So the helm, just solid, a lot of life and res. Now also you want ailment avoidance. So how did I get this? I got 25 here, 25 here, and then on my skill tree, so all these nodes give you another 20% avoid ailments, and then I have this clustered elegant form that gives me 30%, so it makes me ailment immune. I definitely would suggest getting this. Now what you could also do, especially in Trade League, you could get Shaper Boots with elevated mold. It goes to 50% avoid. But honestly, the setup, it's pretty budget. It's just, you want to take these skill points anyway for the life. And then this is just 2 points in a dual socket. And then here it's just 2 suffixes. So it's pretty easy to get your ailment immunity. And honestly, since I got the ailment immunity, I managed to get a lot more tanky. Now, other than that, again, like I said, just a lot of life and res. Same here. Just res life. Getting a mana roll is pretty nice as well. I'll talk later about the mana. But as you can see, I even dropped my mana flask. Now, early on, you will be using a mana flask, but once you get some mana regen, especially on a ring, you can drop it pretty fast. Keep going over the gear first. So the belt is just a lot of life and res. Got really nice belt crafted here. But it's every step. Now, if you do need the res really bad, but you shouldn't. You have so many places of gear to get res on. But if you really do, you can use rare boots instead. You could also, if you really want to go high budget, you can maybe craft a nice pair of rare boots, um, maybe even with tailwind or something like that. But I think Azuri's step is just best in slot for most builds, especially at League Start. The spell dodge is just so insane, especially when you get phase acro as well. For the gloves as well, what you could do, if you get +2 AoE gems on here, which shouldn't even be too bad to craft, and you can put your Plague Bearer also in the gloves to get another +2. So the Plague Bearer, does that big circle you saw. No, I can't activate it here because it's not up. But pretty much when you poison something, it stacks some damage in the Plague Bearer. So currently it's 0 obviously, but now when I would poison any enemies, it would go up. Now the value it does go up to scales on the gem depends on the gem level itself. That's what you can see here. So I have a level 21 gem, and then I have a level 3 in power. So it's pretty strong already, but pretty much the more gem levels you get on Plague Bearer, the more damage it will deal. And then also the more area you get is technically more damage as well, because the circle will become bigger. So let's say Navali is an enemy. Let's take my Flesh and Stone circle as an example. Now here, she's in it, she's taking damage. I'm walking through. She's still taking damage still here. Now imagine the circle was bigger. She would start taking damage, like let's say now already. And then I can maybe walk all the way to here and she's still taking damage. And then, of course, with the pause from obliteration, as long as 1 or 2 mobs in the pack dies, most likely the whole pack will just blow up. So you can juice your clear quite a lot, and you can even make it to the point where you don't even use BladeFall, BladeBlast that often. I even tried doing some maps where I just straight up just BladeBlast, because as long as, even with this small radius, if you hit just a couple of enemies, especially in a pack, your Plague Bearer will instantly be like max charged, and then you can just pop Plague Bearer and run through. So you can definitely make the clear very nice, especially if you get in a power level 4 as well on top of that. So, but I just decided to stick with this setup because in SSF, I mean, I didn't want to spend too much time on my gear. I just wanted to farm on this character, and then I'm gonna make some really big next character. I mean, I farmed a few Maven orbs and Awakening orbs, stuff like that, so I didn't want to spend everything on this. Now, Carcass Jack, the body. Mind you that this body is less single target, since the area of effect it makes the blades spread further. So let's say for my BladeFall, I had no area here on my chest. I can actually take it off and you can probably see it. You see that they're going to be a lot closer to each other than when I do it with the Carcass Jack. You see here they're like a lot more spread out. So on single target, this is actually a single target loss of damage. But for the clear, like I said, it helps the Plague Bearer AoE. And that's just pretty much a quality of life. So on League Start, even if you use a Tabula, you will actually have more single target. Keep that in mind. You can also, if you're more focused on bossing, just use a rare chest, and later on maybe even get one with frenzy on hit, maybe +1 gems, stuff like that, and you'll have a lot more damage than a Carcass Jack. Next up, I guess my rings. So this ring actually crafted really nicely, since I do need it in somewhere for the obliterations. So I got on the ring. Mana regen. So you want a mana regen roll somewhere, because that will help you a lot to be able to drop your mana flask. Now, I crafted non-channeling skills at minus mana cost. This isn't really necessary because even without this craft, I was still just fine. Even like I dropped my mana flask way before I got this craft even. But I had the open prefixes on my ring, so I thought may as well craft that, since crafting damage instead, it wouldn't really get too much damage out of it. So, and obviously you just want life and res. If you can get mana as well, that would be really good, but I didn't manage to. Now this ring, ideally, I wanted to get the +1 to minimum frenzy charges and frenzy charge on kill. But unfortunately I had endurance charges, which isn't bad, but I already have endurance charge generation from Enduring Composure, which also is like another really good small cluster jewel that is pretty underrated, I would say. This pretty much gives you permanent endurance charges if you've been hit. And especially if you combine it on a dodge character with Wind Dancer, the first hit you take is already reduced by quite a lot of damage. And then after that, any other hits you will take, you will have your endurance charges up. And then you also have Immortal Call for those endurance charges. So it's pretty much a good cycle and a lot of extra defenses. Also early on, you obviously won't have Vermilion rings, but once you're able to, I would definitely suggest switching to Vermilion rings. Now, this is gonna take off my gear, but like this one, you see it's giving you 400 life from one ring. Vermilion rings give so much life. Put my auras back on. So the amulet, Ungil's Harmony, is pretty much best in slot since you get so much crit chance. Now, it does his critical strikes deal no extra damage, but we don't we don't deal any crit multi anyway. So we just want to crit because it's from the ascendancy from Assassin. Poison inflicted with crit strikes deals 50% more damage, so that's why you want to crit. So you just really want crit chance, and this is the easiest place to get it. I think that's pretty much all the gear. Also for your helm, if you wanted a better helm and you have high budget, you could get a hunter helm or an elder helm, and then you can get a prefix that's physical damage to spells, which will add you quite a bit of damage. You can also get conk effect on it, so which will make your BladeFall supported by conk effect. So it makes the blades even closer to each other, which again is a big boost in single target damage. Now, if I do decide to keep this character in my bosser, I might craft a better helm like that and change my body as well, just to make it a pure bossing character. But other than that, like again, you just want to res and avoid ailments. So those are the options to upgrade your gear, but honestly, it's not really needed unless you're really planning on farming the Feared or Uber Elder and stuff like that. But even with this gear, I've done quite plenty of them. And yeah, most of them are deathless, but the Feared, like I said, I did quite a bit of errors, like you see. I did one Feared deathless, but it was just rolled white to get the middle of my Atlas unlocked. But the other ones are rolled pretty high quant, so that's probably why I died a couple times. So the skill gems, so my Plague Bearer with Empower and increased AoE. It's a pretty good setup for clear. Again, if you had gloves with +2 AoE, you would switch it and put it in the gloves, just to make it feel even better. This is your setup. So first you throw the BladeFall, and then you do BladeBlast, which detonates all the blades. So your BladeFall is level 1, since you don't really need damage from it, and it keeps the mana cost down. And then you have Unleash, Spell Cascade can be level 1 as well, and faster casting. You of course want to level those. But that's just it. Also cast speed, I forgot to mention, goes a long way in this build. Now I didn't really get too much cast speed. I mean, even here I went for damage instead of cast speed. But if you're more focused on mapping, to an extent even bossing, because the faster you throw your spells, the more damage you'll deal as well. But I got used to the build with the current cast speed I have, so I didn't bother getting any more. So this is it, and then you have your BladeBlast, poison support, void manipulation, vile toxins, deadly ailments, and unbound ailments. Now I managed to later on get awakened gems. I got these pretty late, so I even got lucky getting this level 6. But even with the normal gems, I already had on the Feared before I had my awakened gems. So there's that. And I have Clarity, Withering Step, Flame Dash, and Arcane Surge. Now, ideally, I would have Second Wind linked here, but I ran out of the sockets. So, for example, if you don't use a Portal Gem, you could put a Clarity here, and then you can have Second Wind and get this set up in a 4-link, which is the ideal play, which I had before. But later on, the Clarity as well. So, first, I was not using Vitality as one of my auras, because I didn't have the mana for it, and I had the higher level Clarity. But eventually, once I had this cluster here, Elder's Inspiration gives you some mana regen and mana. I also had these points spec'd first before I had my cluster to help with mana, and I didn't have it, but you can take these as well to help with mana. But I never needed them since I just had a big mana regen. My last ring had 66% mana regen or something like that, which just helped a lot. And I pretty much dropped my mana flash really early before I had my clusters, and I just had these nodes here, and I had the ring with mana regen. It was fine, and I had a high level clarity. But later on, I didn't really need the clarity. I mean, even now, I can probably turn off clarity, and you can see my mana. It's still regenning, and I'm just spamming my skill, and I'm still regenning, so clarity just makes it feel nicer. Because if I'm an ultimatum and I just want to AFK and spam click, I mean, you can see here, I'm just spam clicking, and it's not even going down pretty much. But yeah, later on, when you don't need the clarity, you can get in Vitality as well to help you with some life regen. The other auras you want to use is Flesh and Stone and Herald of Agony. And Enlighten isn't needed, unless you want to fit in Vitality. So before I didn't have an Enlighten, and I just had Clarity, and it was fine. But then I got the Enlighten, I had more mana, so I thought I may as well fit in Vitality as well. But these two auras are really good. I've seen people use Malevolence as well, but I prefer this setup because you can fit in high level Vitality on top of that and Clarity. So I think those are all the gems. I mean, this is just movement skill. You can also use Smoke Mine if you prefer. The Withering Step is really nice because it resets your elusive buff. You can see if I click here, you get elusive again, which just gives you so much dodge. It's
Just
pretty
need a
nice.
moment to catch my breath.
So I think it got over gems, Immortal Call, Cast Damage Taken, and Portal. So then your weapons for bossing. So here is just Immortal Call, Cast Damage Taken again. So I have Despair, so I just self-cast Despair. You can get Despair on the ring, but honestly, I think just self-casting it is not too bad, especially since you want to do it on bosses, and the base duration is already 11 seconds. So you pretty much just cast it once on bosses, then you do your damage, and if the fight does prolong, you can cast it again. I don't think it's too big a deal to self-cast it. And the benefits you get of self-casting is that you can get a high level despair rather than the one on your ring. And then here you want to have multiple totems, spell totem and wither, so you can put your totems down and they will apply wither stacks. This does increase the damage a lot. The issue I have in a lot of boss fights though is that the totems just end up dying, but you just recast the totems because it's definitely worth it. The wither just takes so much more damage. Every wither stack I think gives 6% increased damage taken, which is like a more multiplier, so it's a lot of damage. As for the skill tree, now the majority of the skill trees are going to be live. Now, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it already, but I'm going to link Zizaran's video as well because he made a pretty good build guide for the build as well. And it's hard to really give credit to anyone, but because this build has been pretty staple build for quite a few leagues now. And if you check PoE Ninja as well, the majority of people have almost the identical same skill tree. There's not really much you can take. Now the cluster, before you have your cluster, you have obviously extra skill points, and I had these 3 nodes here for fizz damage. I think I had these nodes as well. Um, Also I padded at one point here to get even more life. And then early on in leveling, I took these nodes as well for some cast speed. Since early on, you really want the cast speed more than life or damage, just to go fast. But then once you get your cluster, drop those nodes, and obviously before you level 100, just had less life nodes. Also, I think before my cluster, I dropped a bit of life to get my cluster, because I think I had these nodes, and obviously I had these nodes. I was lower level. I think these nodes I took pretty late as well. But I remember before my cluster had like 5.7k life, and I dropped all the way down to 5k. And honestly, at the time itself, I couldn't really tell how good the clusters were. So the clusters are definitely not like something you have to have. Maybe the way I went with it is maybe even a bit overkill. But either way, first my large cluster, it's pretty bad actually. Since the only notable, like this one I don't even really proc. And Overwhelming Malice, which is the most important notable. It's quite a lot of damage, but ideally you have 2 other notables pretty good. Now I wanted to get Grim Oath, which I think is the second best notable, and then the other one I forgot the name of it, but it gives chaos damage and cast speed, which I think is the third best notable. But crafting one with all those 3 is probably pretty hard, but ideally you want Overwhelming Malice and any other notables for pretty much any other notables you can get on the chaos damage cluster will be good. So just try and get that. Now for your medium cluster, you have 2 mediums, but you want Elder's Inspiration on either of them, just to help you with mana. Also get some chaos multi. And then the other ones you just want any damage stats. So ideally Hemorrhage I think is one of the better ones for damage. And then I have Eternal Suffering here, which I guess is just something else to get. I didn't spend too much crafting clusters. And here we got Brush with that. Again, this is not the best, but it is some damage. The Recover and Kill, it's a nice addition, but what you get from your Ascendancy, if you see if I don't know if in the mapping clips I ever went low, which I rarely do, but this Recover 0.5% life per poison affecting enemies you kill, that just pretty much gives you instantly full life. And then I also have a life flask, so the brush on that is not that good. It's just nice some damage and some recover. And then small clusters, so elegant form, obviously to get your avoid ailments. If you're not ailment immune, I mean it also gives spell dodge and tag dodge, which is really nice. But yeah, before you have ailment immunity, maybe you can just put a rare jewel in here and spend the points elsewhere. And then Enduring Composure, this is very underrated because it pretty much just gives you permanent endurance charges. especially with dodge and wind dancer, because the first hit we take a lot less damage, and then any hits we take after that we will have endurance charges because of this. And then also that helps us proc our immortal call with longer duration. Um, so it's just nice. Another tip I'll give you, especially on your clusters, you can get the res and stats on them. As you can see, I have some int here and cold res. Granted, it only goes for one node, but this will still add up. I mean, here there's some chaos res and lightning res. Here's some cold res int. Here's some all res int. You know, again here, like dex. So it's like you can get quite a bit of nodes, even you're large, especially in my case, since I don't have the other notable, but these will add up. So definitely try and get some stats there as well to help you. As for the other jewels, they're actually pretty bad. Life, damage, and res here. Um, and then this other one is just a corrupting blood jewel with actually pretty good stats. But ideally, you just want jewels with life. Now you pretty much only have 2 jewel sagas anyway, but just get some life and some damage on them, and that will be good. Or any stats or resists you might be missing, but I don't think you should. I mean, and my gear isn't even too great in SF, so and I didn't have any issues ever with resist. So I think that's pretty much the build. You want to kill all bandits. Yeah, I was scared I was going to be missing a point randomly that I didn't notice, but you want to kill bandits and that's it. I know someone's going to ask about pantheons. Now I took this for a while because I did lab. And oh, I mean, sorry, this one I took because I did lab, and I just had this. Honestly, take whatever you want. I mean, as you can see, I don't really even upgrade these, but you can take whichever one you think is better. I don't think they matter too much. So that's the build. The flask. So Blood of the Karui, actually, I really like, because at some point you have so much life that even any other divine life flask, even of bubbling, it won't really heal you that much, since you have just too much life compared to what the life flask gives. So I really like this flask because regen recovers 3.6k life already. Also has a life recovery rate, which is nicely stacked, especially now that I have it on the belt. Nowadays now it's on 3. Um, but then also it recovers full life at the end of the flash effect, which the flash effect doesn't even last that long. It's 2.6 seconds. So you'll already regen so much from the flask itself, and then at the end of it, you go to full life again. Now, the only downside is that it only has 2 charges, but honestly, I've preferred this way more than any other life flask. So I'll definitely suggest this. Create a signature. Before this, I was just using a normal diamond flask, but then I dropped this, so I thought I'd fit it in. Quicksilver, of course. You can also go the one with increased effect, but I like this Alchemist. Quartz Flask, more dodge, phasing, very good. Make sure you get curse removal. So you're obviously ailment immune, so I don't need that. And then I have a corrupting blood jewel, so I don't need bleed removal. But yeah, curse immunity, very underrated. But it's insane for maps. Pretty much just ignore most map mods with this. And then there's Promise. Ideally, you have a better roll than mine, but you know, it's pretty good. The Chaos Sword is pretty nice on it as well, on top of all the damage it gives you. So I think that's everything covered. If I forget something, make sure you put it in the description. But yeah, all around, a really solid build. Would definitely advise it as a league starter for next league, assuming nothing changes. Oh yeah, here I have a mirror that dropped. But yeah, my SF is going pretty good. I mean, as you can see, I have quite a lot of currency. I have 40 souls, which are probably getting spent pretty soon. The Maveners as well. Since the next build, so I have this. I had 3 tempering orbs, and I managed to hit the fizz modifiers on it. 6%. Ideally, I wanted 8%, but it also had the crit modifier. The issue with this is that I rolled Dictator on it, and tier 4 beasts, as most of you know, don't exist. But yeah, maybe I'll do another video where I talk about my SF journey. I have quite a lot of maps and stuff like that. But yeah, the next build I'm going to be doing the self-chill build. I already have my 6-link and pulse already. I also have the ring, the Winter Reeve ring. I have quite a few of these belts. But yeah, I'll probably do a separate video if people are interested to see the build progress on that. I'm going to be crafting some nice gear for it. Now, lastly, before I forget, I will also leave you with some boss skills. So I'll show you one of the Mavens I did, and on the Feareds, I'll show you the 95 Quant Feared. I think I died 3 times or something like that. Now, my deal was also on Discord, which you'll probably see with some friends. I was messing around, definitely did not play it as good as I should. I think it had speed on it, which is a pretty hard mod, makes you dodge makes dodging a lot harder. But it went pretty good. I could have played it better. Like I said over the gear review, I could have had a lot more damage as well, but I think it's pretty easy and solid to do it on this build. So I'll leave you with that. If you want to see any more content, let me know, because I have a lot more recorded, but the video is already dragging out way too long. So I'll see you in the next video.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the wind crying out its prayer. Why are we so ashamed to be alive? Break the chains and our freedom's ours to take. Look behind your back. Chase a light when the world is getting darker. I have a dream where love's the only side. So take my hand, join the army of the shadows. Going harder, we are more than numbers, standing in this hate. Going louder, we are all one color, standing in their way. Join the army of the shadow. Join the army of the shadow. Join the army of the shadows, shadows, shadows. Join the army of the shadows. Join the army of the shadows. Going harder, we are more than numbers, standing in their shade. Going louder, we are all one color, standing in their way. Gave you too much, now I'm swallowed. Now I'm the fool while you're breaking rules. Dangerous path that I follow. Oh, go on, just do what you do. And it hurts as I bleed for you, cry for you. Oh, let me bleed as I bleed for you, cry for you. Oh, let me bleed. seems to follow, like a shadow dark and cold to the touch. Am I insane not to let go? Oh, go on, just do what you do. And it hurts as I bleed for you, cry for you. Let me bleed as I bleed for you, cry for you. Let me bleed. Let me bleed. Let me. Wherever love goes, there is also misery. It's no mystery. And you and I, we got history. Yeah. Wherever love flows, there is also tragedy. When we're in too deep. And you and I, we got history. Yeah.